buddy, the Buffalo Sabres are supposed to be a playoff team. This is an important U.S. Thanksgiving, though, because much like last year, there's some like, when's that team going to get in? When's that team going to get out? I'm kind of bearing the lead here, but fuck it. Sean, can you give me the Eastern Conference, please? The Eastern Conference, as we are 1 week away from U.S. Thanksgiving, has the Panthers, the Maple Leafs, the Lightning coming out of the Atlantic. That all kind of makes sense. Metro, Hurricanes, of course. Capitals, of course. Rangers, of course. Let's get to the wild card, where the New Jersey Devils, with a .619 points percentage, hold the first wild card spot. And what is that? There's a couple of 500 teams, but I'm pretty sure they both played the same number of games, and one of them has more regulation and overtime wins. That would be, Sean, your Buffalo Sabres in line for a playoff spot if the season ended today.
Buddy, that's Lindy Ruff's music.
Oh!
Too bad the season doesn't end today.
I played a game of ESHL with a team called the Buffalo Sabres last night.
Hard.
And I joined their team, and they were talking about Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Who played like a Vezina candidate last night. He rocked.
I will
Shout
say,
out.
you don't need to do Buffalo Sabres EASHL games to talk about Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
That's right.
These days, you just go down the street and you're like, you see the game last night? What game? Only one person was on the ice, it seemed. That guy was Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Sean, come back to us if you would. Buffalo Sabres, you are supposed to make the playoffs now.
Are we adjusting the expectations for the Sabres? Well, it is. We still have 1 week.
Whose expectations, brother?
We still have 1 week. But if they are there next week by Thursday, we are officially stamping they're supposed to be a playoff team.
I love
Sabres
that idea. On is supposed to be a playoff team watch. Don't blow this, Sean.
And we will, like, if anybody pushes back on that after Thanksgiving, we have receipts. They were in a playoff spot at Thanksgiving.
Sean came in today. I was here all early. I was caffeinated. I was like doing I wasn't, but it was, I felt like I was having like a spa day. I just felt like I was floating. I was so happy. Sean came in. I'm bouncing around. I'm giving him big. I'm like, hey, buddy, the Buffalo Sabres are supposed to be a playoff team. U.S. Thanksgiving standings tell me so. Sean could not have been more lightly giggly, but generally not receptive to it.
I mean,
you're not having as much fun as Pete and I are.
That's the appropriate response if you're Sean.
Absolutely
1,000%.
I try to stay consistent, and the vibes aren't like. This has been a vibes team all year, and even if they're on a playoff spot, the vibes don't seem playoffy right now, so I'm not getting excited.
Oh, buddy, like, you look at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, and tell me that any of those teams below
throw
the
it back
Buffalo
up.
Sabres
No,
deserve to
throw
climb
up
above them.
who's serving Hunt right now, or who's Hunty? You got the Islanders, who no, Boston,
Respectfully.
who in the next week, but Boston's going to be in. Actually, I don't know if they play enough games leading up because they do have a couple of toughies. They've got the Canucks next week, but they have such an easy road ahead that they're going to be that not in playoff spot for U.S. Thanksgiving, and 2 weeks after U.S. Thanksgiving are like President's Trophy candidates because they just are playing a bunch of ass teams. If they're not beating those teams that they're playing, we outlined in the last couple of days, then they should fire Joe Sacco.
I'm just, like, I look at the Islanders, absolute overtime point merchants. They have 5 overtime losses.
Burn.
Get a real team. Bruins, absolute mess. Could rally under Joe Sacco. I think that they're going to be better. Obviously, it's hard to be worse, even though the stand, like, they are not as good as what the standings say right now. And the standings say they are below 500, which is crazy. And the Ottawa Senators, I'll tell you what, I still believe in the Senators.
Spunk.
I still think the Senators could be in a playoff spot at some point towards the end of the year. Linus Ullmark's, he's my guy. He's my best friend. He's not playing well.
He's going to come around, though.
I think that he's going to come around, and what is encouraging is that the Ottawa Senators are actually like a pretty good defensive team this year.
Yeah, I think
once.
The Senators are going to stay in the mix. Boston's going to be more than in the mix. They're going to be a playoff team. Islanders, I think, will drop out, but as we were saying in our season preview, like,
they're so fucking annoying that they always hang around.
Playoffy team. They're not going to totally. I I'll say that the hunty teams will remain hunty, but Boston will find their way in, which is bad news for the Devils because the Sabres are absolutely staying in. They're supposed to make the playoffs. Sean, if you would give me the Western Conference, we have the Jets having a historic season, Wild, Stars out of the Central, Pacific, Golden Knights, Flames, Canucks, loving that there. And the wild card, Kings and the Oilers. In the hunty, what's that?
I'm laughing at what we know.
You're laughing at what we know. So the hunty teams are the Avalanche, the Kraken, and the Ducks.
Not hunty. I know they're 500. The Ducks are not hunty.
The Ducks are not really hunty, but if we're going to say that the Islanders are hunty, then we have to say that the Ducks are hunty. I know what your counter is going to be. You'll gladly say the Islanders aren't hunty. You want them to not be hunty.
And we're talking about a much worse Eastern Conference than a Western Conference. Like the Islanders could puke all over themselves and still get into the party. I don't think that the Ducks could puke all over themselves and be allowed into the party.
Okay. Sean, what do you think we do first? Do you think we say who's in and who's out from last week's check, or do we say what we know?
Say what you know. It's way more interesting. I love it.
Sean, could you give me a couple of interesting playoff matchups, if you would, if the season ended today?
I mean, I can give you one, and it's that Central 1 versus Wild Card 2, the Winnipeg Jets versus Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. Sounds like a nightmare scenario for one Connor Hellebuck.
With what happened last season, where the Jets were on fraud-ass pumpkin watch all year, they get into the playoffs and they say, we'll show you who's frauds. Oh, fuck. And they played the Avalanche and got absolutely smoked. And we were legitimately having, is Connor Hellebuck the guy conversations. If they had a historic season and broke the Bruins record, which they are on pace to do, and then played the Oilers in the first round, we were discussing this before the show. All three of us are in agreement. The Oilers would sweep. Would actually sweep. Yes. Would actually sweep the Jets. And Stu Skinner would for sure. What we know is that Stu Skinner would absolutely outplay Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah, that we probably do know that. And I think just from a pure comedy standpoint, no disrespect to my Winnipeg Jets friends, but I would 100% be rooting against them if they broke the Bruins record and headed into a matchup in the first round against the Oilers.
Well, that would make it 3 teams in a row that broke the record and then lost in the first round, 2 of which would be swept. Boston at least went to 7 games, built different.
You're giving them credit before something's already happened.
Yes. It's the fucking love you, Jets, mean it. But if this happens, if that matchup happens, that's absolutely going down. The other good matchup, I know that Sean's acting like there's only one fun matchup that we're talking about here. Who would the Eastern Conference leading Carolina Hurricanes play in the first round, Sean?
Oh, I honestly forgot that we talked about this. One Buffalo Sabres, which despite my lack of excitement for the Sabres potentially making the playoffs, seems again like a nightmare scenario for the higher ranked seed here because Carolina kind of seems like assholes.
If we can say it about the Bruins every year that they're like built to win the cup, if we can say, or at least I say, that they're a choky ass team, Hurricanes are a choky ass team.
I don't know if they're first round choky,
in the
but
Eastern Conference final. Like they win rounds.
Here's what you're not considering. This would be the Sabres Eastern Conference final. You know when they do that, when they say that's that team's Super Bowl.
This is our Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
They can't say it's their Super Bowl, and they have because that will not end well for the Sabres either.
They have the Hurricanes do not have Stanley Cup final experience under Rod Brindamore. So this would be uncharted territory for both teams, and I think Vegas would probably favor the Buffalo Sabres. I think a lot of us would go into this saying, the smart money is on Buffalo.
It'd be a fascinating matchup on Twitter. Like, I think those fan bases would make for some entertainment off the ice.
I mean, you could make the argument the Buffalo Sabres would have the goaltending advantage. UPL.
I don't think there's an argument there. I think that's objective.
I mean, it depends on who the Hurricanes acquire, maybe.
Well, fair. That's fair.
We did see that Freddie Anderson is out for 8 weeks. And he's never healthy, so.
Our chaos god baby. Yoder, give it to me. I want Hurricane season tickets. I want to watch every game that guy plays. He's so much freaking fun, as would that matchup be.